Hi everybody, I could finally get my face and the view both in the sun. Today I am in the city of Nuremberg in Bavaria, Germany. When we talk about Nuremberg, many people think about its association with the Nazi Party and the famous trials that took place after the end of the Second World War. But Nuremberg, throughout history, was an important place artistically also. Famous German painter Albrecht Dürer, famous Meistersinger Hans Sachs, and another famous Baroque composer Johann Pachelbel were all born here. Today, I would like to talk to you about Pachelbel and his famous Canon, probably one of the most performed pieces of our time.
One of the most important composers of the Middle Baroque period, Johann Pachelbel, was born in 1653 in the free imperial city of Nuremberg, which was one of the most important centers of the Holy Roman Empire. After his musical studies in Altdorf and Regensburg, he became the assistant church organist at St. Stephan's Church in Vienna, the center of the Habsburg Empire. Later, he held similar positions in Eisenach, Erfurt, Stuttgart, and Gotha. And during his time in Eisenach and Erfurt, he was closely acquainted with the Bach family, one of the biggest families in history with more than 50 composers and musicians. He even taught Johann Christoph Bach, the eldest brother of Johann Sebastian Bach, in the 1670s harpsichord and organ. Years later, in 1694, Johann Christoph invited Johann Pachelbel to his wedding. If Pachelbel attended this wedding in 1694, he might have even met the young Johann Sebastian Bach, who was then only 9 years old. Whether he did or not, we can certainly say that Johann Pachelbel was a very influential figure in the development of Johann Sebastian Bach's compositional style, through him teaching the oldest brother Johann Christoph, who in turn taught Johann Sebastian, and also through the organ works that we know Johann Sebastian Bach studied as a child.
In the summer of 1695, upon the death of the church organist here at St. Sebald Church in Nuremberg, Pachelbel is invited to the same position. They must have wanted him for this position so much that they broke all protocol, did not announce this position, did not even invite any of the other church organists in Nuremberg to audition for this position. As we talk about Pachelbel's Canon and his other works, let's have a look at the church.
Johann Pachelbel, who is today considered the peak of Southern German organ music school, was a very prolific composer. His output is comprised of several hundred works, both sacred and secular. He composed over 200 works for the organ, including choral preludes, toccatas, chaconas, and variations, and also many vocal works. His Musikalische Ergötzung, the Musical Pleasures, a collection of 6 chamber suites, and his Hexachordium Apollinis, a collection of keyboard variations, published in 1699, are among his most important works. Pachelbel's Canon is believed to be composed sometime after 1680. Its oldest surviving manuscript, dating from the 19th century, is today housed at the music department of the Berlin State Library. In this manuscript, the title reads Canon a tre violini con basso continuo di Johann Pachelbel, meaning Johann Pachelbel's Canon for 3 violins and basso continuo. In English, the continued bass. This was the most common compositional technique in the Baroque period, where composers wrote a single bass line and indicated the harmony, the chords that should be played with this bass line, by inserting numbers, which are called figures. At the beginning of the piece, we hear this 2-measure bass line by itself, and then on the 3rd measure begins the 1st violin. That is followed by the 2nd violin in measure 5 and the 3rd violin in measure 7, therefore creating the canon.
So, why is Pachelbel's Canon in D is so famous and popular in our day? Let's talk about that.
I will now tell you something very interesting. According to many different researches on the brain, our brain likes repetition. Actually, it likes repetition because eventually it recognizes this repetition creates familiarity, and our brains perceive this familiarity as liking. That simply means if we actually listen to a certain piece of music several times, we will start liking it. Here in the Canon, the two measures of the bass line is repeated 28 times. Also, the violin melody is repeated at least 3 times because 3 different violins continue playing it back to back. And also, this violin melody is made up of variations of itself. Therefore, even if we don't hear the actual melody, we hear its variants and we hear music that's very similar to what we just heard. So in that way, it is also very repetitive, and that's one of the reasons the Canon by Pachelbel is very popular. Another reason for the Canon's popularity is its pitch content. There is only 7 actual pitches of the D major scale that's used in this whole piece. We actually don't hear any chromatic movements. The music doesn't modulate to another key, so we just hear basically variations of these 7 pitches. That makes the Canon also very accessible and easy to comprehend, therefore its popularity. Lastly, let me remind you that Canon is actually followed by a lively dance movement titled Gigue, which you have been listening in the background of this video. If you ever visit the city of Nuremberg one day, apart from some of the top sites like the Nuremberg Castle, German National Railway Museum, Albrecht Dürer House, and the Nazi Party rally grounds, do not forget to taste the local black beer, Nuremberg-style small sausages, and the Franconian-style potato soup.
Fellow Hit the Road travelers, thank you for joining me today at this cultural journey. And don't forget to hit the like button at the bottom of your screen. And please consider supporting our project at patreon.com by selecting a membership level. Thanks for watching and see you next time.